So in episode 10, Jen tries to confess to Detective Perez, who's going through a tough time because Michelle moved out. But Detective Perez needs more than just Jen's word that she did it. So the two head to the forest, start looking for where they buried the body, but they can't find that location anywhere. And after searching and searching and searching, Detective Perez just finally calls her over to the car and says, we're leaving. Because Detective Perez feels like it's just nothing more than a mother trying to protect her child from a crime. Another possibility is that Judy Hale did it, and she's once again trying to pay off Jen. And Detective Perez cannot figure out why so many people are obsessed with Judy Hale. It's like she has a spell on everybody. And Jen says, what do you mean? She says, well, she killed your husband and you love her. Like, what is up with that? And Jen thinks about it and says it's because she sees the good in people. And Judy, meanwhile, has woken up and found the letters and is panicking because she knows that Jen has gone to turn herself in and she's trying to keep it from the kids. But Charlie knows that his mom didn't come home last night and he's worried. He gives Judy the toiletry bag and says that there's a flash drive in there, but some weird language like Hebrew, I couldn't read it. And she says it's Greek. And she gives Charlie a hug and says, thank you so much, and then immediately takes it over to Nick. She tells Nick that if I give you what I'm about to give you, I need your word that you'll do everything to protect Jen. The problem is Nick has no idea what she's talking about because Jen hasn't shown up to confess anything. She went straight to Detective Perez's house. So when Nick says, what are you talking about? She says, I mean, just hypothetically speaking, if Jen is ever in trouble, you'll protect her. But Nick isn't really concerned about that at this time because he heard the voicemails from Steve and he just wants to know why in the world Judy would stay with a guy like that as opposed to Nick. She says, I guess I figured you get what you deserve, but he says nobody deserved that. He then picks up one of the items from the bag and it's a voice recorder. And Judy says, I listened to that. Make sure you listen to that privately where the chief can't hear himself. And then she leaves. And as Nick is staring at it, he realizes what she just said and goes, oh my God. So as Detective Perez and Jen are heading back from the forest, Detective Perez gets a text from Nick saying, we got him. And at that same moment, Jen says, all right, what happens now? She says, we'll drive back, you'll give a statement, and you'll be formally charged. That's protocol. But you're just going to go home. And we're never going to talk about what we didn't find out in these woods. And Jen is very confused, but Detective Perez says, I'm not trying to be a cop right now. I just want to be a person. And sometimes justice works itself out. So go home with your kids and tell them you love them. And just as Judy is about to tell both Henry and Charlie what happened to their mom, Jen walks to the door. Because Judy never gave the kids their letters. And the first thing Jen says is, let me explain the letters, but Judy lets her know with her eyes that I didn't even give it to her. When Jen and Judy get alone, Jen apologizes for what she said the previous night and also apologizes for lying to her, but Judy forgives her. She tells her, I don't want to carry around any more pain anymore. I'm tired of it. And really, resenting Jen would just be punishing herself. Afterwards, Judy heads to the prison to talk to her mom, who is kind of hinting at Judy hiring a lawyer for her to get her out. But Judy says, yeah, I couldn't find the money to do that. Her mom then says, you know, it would be great if you just wrote the board a letter saying I've changed. But Judy's not doing that either because she looks at her mom and says, you know what, Mom? You haven't changed. And she walks out. When she gets back home, Detective Perez has shown up with all of her paintings. And this is a huge deal to Judy, who thought they were lost forever. And this is really a thank you from Detective Perez because Judy gave them that bag from Steve's car that indicted the chief. And the chief is going away to federal prison for a long time. And right before Detective Perez leaves, Judy says, I just want to let you know, I think you're a really special person. And Detective Perez looks right at her dead in the eye and says, I hope I never see you again. But, you know, that's Judy Hale for you. So with Detective Perez long gone, Judy starts busting open those paintings. Because the reason she wanted them so badly wasn't because she was attached to them. It was because there was money hidden inside the frames. And I'm talking a lot of money. And with all of that money, she decides to buy Lorna out of Jen's house. Initially, Lorna thinks that she's just trying to get bought out of their lives, but Jen says, no, you're the kid's only grandmother, and I do appreciate that. Which is another reason why I can't work for you anymore. Lorna says, is it because you just found a $15 and $20 million property? And Jen says, no, it's not. And actually, I'm gifting that to you as well. But Jen asked her to be nice to Mrs. Woods because she could really use a friend right now who knows what she's going through. And with Lorna losing Ted and Mrs. Woods probably losing Steve, the two would get along great. And in all honesty, with a $20 million commission, Lorna's going to get along great with anybody. And speaking of the Woods, Ben is packing up the house along with his mom, and his mom makes mention that Jen was asking about him and that he should call her before he leaves town. So he goes to a separate room and is looking at the number, and right before he's about to call it, he gets a phone call. And the phone call lets him know that Steve's body's been found in the woods by a hiker's dog. But instead of telling his mom, he just says, I'm going to go get us some ice cream and leaves. And he doesn't go to get ice cream. He goes to the liquor store and grabs a bottle. Jen and Judy, meanwhile, have taken the rest of Judy's money to go get Charlie a car. And with Jen and Judy out of the house, Charlie sneaks into Judy's room to try to get some weed. But he finds Jen's letter to Judy. And in that letter, Jen states, I'm sorry for not forgiving you sooner for Ted. So now Charlie knows, or at least has an idea of what happened and who killed his father. As Jen and Judy are driving back from the car dealership, they start talking about how they might take a vacation. But as they're doing so, they need to slam on the brakes because the city council has put in that stop sign that Jen was fighting so hard to get. And as they're celebrating their little moral victory, they inch out into the intersection, but they're hit because some guy blew that stop sign. And as Judy is asking Jen if she's okay because the car was hit on the driver's side, Ben, who was the driver who hit Jen, is drunk and he's realizing what he did, and he backs up the car and he does a hit and run. And that is how Season 2 of Dead to Me ends. Please consider subscribing to the channel. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button harder than Ben hit Jen's new car. Too soon, I apologize. If you thought this video sucked, there's a thumbs down button. You can hit that as well. If you leave a comment and I don't get back to you, it's because I avoid the comment section. But I do really appreciate you guys checking out this video.